Danny has been a longtime volunteer and is one of our most popular advisor ambassadors for the Advisor Ambassador Program also. So we're very excited to have him. Danny started in the financial services profession in 2001. Having worked in an investment firm and later as a loan originator, he brings in a unique perspective to personal finance and insurance. Since 2006, his focus has been in the employee benefits space, working with employers to evaluate their needs and design creative solutions focused on value. Now it is my pleasure to turn things over to Danny O'Connell.
Quite the introduction there. So I don't have all the answers. I'm just an individual, a man who asks the question, what if? And you see, this session is designed for the people who feel stressed out. You feel like you're pulled in a lot of directions. You feel like you're overcommitted. You feel like you don't know where to begin at the beginning of the day, and at the end of the day, you still feel like you didn't get anything done. Because a phrase that I came up with earlier this year when I was listening to a lot of speakers that we're so fortunate to listen to was busy is the enemy of revolutionary. Busy, still a four-letter word the last time I checked, but I want to talk about that concept as we go on today. Busy is the enemy of revolutionary. Every single person in this room, I'm confident, has gone through some trial, some tribulation, some test, something that tested your resolve in your lifetime. And I'm pretty sure that nobody really wanted to be facing that challenge or that obstacle. I'm not here to start comparing one story to another, and I'm fortunate that mine wasn't really health related. But while I was preparing for this session, what I realized was by virtue of having to go through that, it made me a stronger and a better person. So just as we know, as we get tested, we can come out stronger and better people. I want to welcome you to our session, How to Turn Your Successful Practice into a Balanced Life. And again, my name's Danny O'Connell. And so I want to really ask you, and there's going to be some feedback, some participation in here. A little too far, we got a hair trigger. I'm from Texas. There we go. All right. Why do we do it? Lane, I'm going to pick on you up front. Why do you work the hours? Why do you put in everything that you put into what it is that you do? Lane said it gives him a small amount of satisfaction. Joey, when you got started in this business, did you start out as a commission salesperson? Joey started out as a commission salesperson. So Joey, why did you start out in a commissioned sales job?
Because I didn't have any other opportunities.
Joey gave a very honest answer. He said he didn't have any other opportunities. So I think about, why is it that we do all the things that we do? Why is it that we put in all the hours that we put in? Why is it that we take a 100% commission job? The answers across this room are going to vary. And for those of you that are joining us live, while you're at home or in your office writing notes, your answer may be different as well. It may be because of hope, maybe determination, perseverance. Maybe it was our only option. Maybe because it was out of stupidity. I think it was because out of belief. We believe that what we do changes lives. And we know that. We know that we have an impact in other people's lives, our clients, our staff. And hopefully, what we do in our profession has an impact and changes us for the better as well. And so I want to take you back a little bit, because the things that I'm going to go over today, for a lot of you, they're not new. Brian Heckert, you know this stuff. You've heard it. But I want to try to repurpose things. I want to try to take you back a little bit, because the things that I'm going to go over today, for a lot of you, they're not new. Brian Heckert, you know this stuff. You've heard it. But I want to try to repurpose things. I want to try to take you back a little bit, because the things that I'm going to go over today, for a lot of you, they're not new. Brian Heckert, you know this stuff. You've heard it. But I want to try to repurpose things. And my argument, my premise, is really, what if we look at the things in our practice that we know works well, and we try to go ahead and pull that over into our personal life and apply it there as well? And so I want to take you back to when I got started in the industry. And I worked for a firm, and in here, how many people are in a sales role or sales capacity? Show of hands. Okay. And hopefully, for those of you that raised your hand, when you joined your company, hopefully there was some sort of sales training that they did within the company, right? Some of you here, and I was one of the beneficiaries of this as well, some of you may have had the opportunity to even go to outside sales training. And so my first job out of college, I started in January of 2001 in the investment world. And for those of you that were in the industry back then, you know what that was like. And my job was to open accounts and bring in assets. And I did that by making 100 phone calls a day to people that I would never see, I would never know, and they were to be sold to invest with me in the methodology of my firm. And so we talk about, and we hear from speakers all the time about your one job and what your one job is. If you would have asked the CEO of my company, who's from Hoboken, New Jersey, what my one job was, your one job is to open accounts, bring in money, and make 100 calls a day. That's what your one job is, O'Connell. Sorry, that was not a very good Hoboken, New Jersey accent. But I was lucky because that job it really tested me, and it also taught me professional work experience and that dedication. And within that job, I was able to go to outside sales training. Has anybody here heard the Dale Carnegie course? Anybody participated in that? It was phenomenal. And for those of you who don't know, Dale Carnegie, one of the greatest sales coaches of all times. It doesn't matter what you're selling, who you're selling to, his methodology and his principles work, and they're time tested. And one of his most famous books, How to Win Friends and Influence People, we had to read this book as part of our course. And truth be told, I hated the name of this book. It sounded like I was being deceptive, or I was trying to manipulate things or people into making a sale. I hated the name of this. I hate to admit that I was reading this, but the book was incredible. And so within the Dale Carnegie sales course, in my company, they would take a few young advisors and they would put them through this course at a time. And you would go and you would meet in a room about this size with probably 100 other people from all walks of life, selling all different types of things. And you had to read, and every week there was some concept, some lesson that you had to go through and had to experience. And you were put at these round tables with other people that you knew nothing about. They couldn't be from your company. And each week, they had the sales training contest. And the person that got voted by their table as having best completed that assignment got to get up on a stage, much like this, in front of a room full of people, much like we are here today, and you had to give your pitch. And the person that won, that got voted by their peers as getting the best pitch, won this pen. Now, mine, I still happen to have. It's green and black plastic. It writes black ink. At one point in time, it had a silver clip, much like this one. It's now broken off. Sadly, it's at my home. It's in my closet. It was something I meant to bring, and I forgot. But I want a pen. And in my company, that was almost validation on them hiring you. You were expected to win a pen and to come back the next day to work, telling the tale of how you won that pen. And so my pen from the week that I won was from storytelling. And my story went something like this. Imagine you come home after a long day of work, exhausted. You pull your car into the driveway and you open your door. The sun's beginning to set, but it's still pretty light out. Your young daughter comes running up to you as you get out of your car and wraps her arms around your neck, giving you the best hug you've ever had. And you look up and you look on the porch and you see your spouse standing there smiling, happy that you're home and that your dinner as a family is going to be ready in a short amount of time. and that you have the peace of mind to know that you don't have to go in and get on your computer and start checking account balances and transferring money and placing trades and worrying about what the market is going to do the next day. Because you decided to work with me. And you know that everything for your financial future, for your retirement, for that daughter's college education is taken care of. That is the peace of mind that my clients enjoy. And so as a 23-year-old at the time, I think I was really starting to learn two things. One, the power and importance of stories. I think we can all appreciate how important stories are in our practice and what we do. And two, I think it was also Stephen Covey. I hadn't read the book, I was starting to pull in, begin with the end in mind. Hair trigger. So like I said, I really believe what we need to help achieve balance in our life, we probably already know. And if you don't, I want to introduce some new things to you today. And so the question that I told you before, what if? That's what I asked. What if we applied the things we were taught getting into this industry? What if we applied the books that we read, the speakers we listen to, and the goals that we set into our personal lives? Can these same principles carry over? And at the end of the day, what is it that we truly seek? Is balance what we truly seek? I would argue no. I don't think balance is what we're really after. I think balance is a term, a word that we have used to deceive ourselves. I think as we run around and we're pulled in so many directions, we feel like we have to do more because of the obligations and the expectations of people that are in our lives. Didn't see this coming, did you? So going back to high school and even college psychology classes, if you go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you look at the first one, the physiological needs. And I hope everybody in the room has these taken care of. I realize that there are people in the world and in this country that do not have food, water, shelter, but hopefully is having a career and having a job in this profession or in any profession, you're covering those basic needs. And I hope that most of us feel safe day in and day out. And you look at our history, you could argue that this is the second, maybe the third generation that hasn't had to fight day in and day out just for their own subsistence. But then we move into the psychological needs, the belongingness, the love, the relationships. And there's no better example of this than NAIFA P+P. A group of colleagues and friends that get together once, twice, 3, 12 times a year, that we all belong and we're tied by a common bond. And we can pick up right where we left off. You look at the esteem needs, the prestige and feeling of accomplishment. And I gotta tell you, I don't think any industry does it as well as ours, because that is reflected by the ribbons on our name tag. And as soon as we get our name badge, whenever we check into a conference, we go right over the table and we start loading up on our ribbons. I'm making fun of myself here as well. But this is a perfect example of your esteem needs. But finally, we get to our self-actualization or fulfillment. And I was fortunate in June of 2018, I was giving a presentation the day before the $1 Million Roundtable annual meeting to a group of agents with MetLife Asia. And we were talking about different things. One of them was about coaching and how having a coach can help you get direction, get clarity, and achieve your goals. And I was going through and I was kind of giving my talk and fumbling around a little around the point, not really getting where I wanted to be. And one of my good friends and one of our colleagues, person that's here, Mr. John Nickel, put it in one word and he nailed it. And he said, what you're talking about, Danny, is fulfillment. And John, you're dead on. And that stuck with me ever since. And that's what really helped drive this concept and this presentation. Because when we go back to our daily lives and we try to find balance, I don't think that we're looking for balance. We're looking for fulfillment, starting with the end in mind. And so if we hold that truth, if we can agree to that in this room, I thought about, what does fulfillment look for me? What does that look like? And so fulfillment to me, true personal success, is making deep, meaningful impacts on the world, including those with people that we will never meet. And if you go on Google and you look up impact or crater, you'll see massive volcanoes and holes in the earth and destruction. Because impacts can be negative, right? But I like this one. I like this picture the best. This is Crater Lake National Park in Oregon. And this shows that even in an impact, even in something that brought destruction at that time, it clears way for beauty. And beauty can exist. And impacts can have a lasting, beautiful effect on our lives and on the lives of those around us and after we're gone. I don't know how many. I'm sure there are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people a year that go visit Crater National Park for the scenery, to be inspired, to be awed, to take that away from them. And so when I took time to think about what fulfillment looked like for me, this, my friend, is what fulfillment looked like for me. And so now comes the hard part, right? Now we have to try to figure out what fulfillment looks for you. And so, going back to the things that we know, a few years ago I participated in the 19th Lilly class in the state of Texas. And that left a deep, beautiful impact in my life. And one of the books that I'm sure many of you have read, if you've read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, please raise your hand if you're aware of this. And if not, I highly encourage you to check this out. I'm not going to go through all the 7 habits, but I want to pull the ones that I felt spoke most to me and applied towards me helping to reach that fulfillment. Mine go in a little bit different order. I would start with begin with the end in mind. You have to understand and visualize and be able to articulate, what does fulfillment mean to you? What does that look like? Next, you have to be proactive, right? Fulfillment is not going to come find you sitting on the couch or sitting behind your desk. That's not how it works. You have to go out there and you have to make that happen. As we go through the rest of our conversation today, the next one I would talk about is seek first to understand, then to be understood, and finally to put first things first. Those were the 4 things out of this book that really helped influence me when I was thinking about fulfillment in my life. So beginning with the end in mind, we need to identify those people in our lives that we serve. This is where you begin. From associations to family members to charities and foundations, community organizations, the activities that your family members participate in, even some great NAIFA members up there like Mike Brown, who did a tremendous job once again putting on P+P this year. But you have to sit here and you have to identify and take inventory of those people that you serve. And at the end of the day, you may find out that there are people and there are things that you are serving that maybe you don't want to serve. Maybe they are taking up a lot of your time and energy and you just don't have the passion for it and you've been trying to find a way to eliminate that. So an easy way to start this, to figure out who we serve, when you go back to your office, you look at your calendar, you look at what's on your calendar, you pull out your smartphone and you look at who the last 5 to 10 people that you texted were. You look at those people that are important to your life that you communicate on a regular basis with. And so as I went through this and I identified the people that I served, I looked at what roles that I had to those people. Some people, some of you may be religious, spiritual, some may meditate. For me, I have my spiritual beliefs. Who am I accountable to? Me, I'm accountable to my God. As a husband, I'm accountable to my spouse. As a family, I'm accountable to my parents, to my siblings, to my children. As a boss and a business owner, I'm accountable to my staff. As a salesperson, I'm accountable to my clients. As a professional association member, I'm accountable to those associations in which I volunteer a member, to NAIFA, to NAIHU, to MDRT, to other leadership roles that we fill in the community. You're responsible for me, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Rotary, CASA, all those areas that you volunteer and you give your time to. And finally, I think one of the most important ones that we often overlook and we put on that back burner is our personal health. And for that, you have to be responsible to yourself. And so I probably wouldn't necessarily put The Energy Bus as a self-reflection book, but this was actually a book that we read as a follow-up to Lily 7 one year. And The Energy Bus, I love it. It's a quick, it's easy read. It's something that whenever I have a team member come onto our staff, I ask them to read it. I had my spouse read it. They even make an energy bus for kids that I got to have my kids read it. That's how much I believe in this. And see, the energy bus, to me, one of the major takeaways is, what is the positive energy in your life and what is the negative? What is draining you of your energy? They call it the energy vampire, and I love that term. This is more than just getting the right person on the right bus, facing the right seat, everybody going the right direction. This goes back to the energy within your team, within your family, within your circle. And these questions weren't really in the book, but these are things that I pulled from the book. And so when you're taking inventory over the different roles and the different organizations that you fill, I would go through these 4 questions with each one of them. First, does this bring me joy? Now, of course, there are things in your life that don't bring you joy. Going to your Aunt Betty's house on Christmas to eat dried out fruitcake might not bring you joy, but we know that's the right thing to do. Does it allow me to make a difference? Because going back to my fulfillment, I want to be able to make a deep, meaningful impact. So is this activity, is this organization, is this role going to give me the ability to make a difference? Is this something that I care about? And I would probably say, is this something that I'm passionate about? Because it can be something that you enjoy doing. It can be something that you can make a difference in. But if you're not passionate about it, how much of a difference can you make? Are you in the way of somebody else who is more passionate about that? And finally, is this a positive and healthy influence in my life? And guess what? This can also apply to family members. So you have to ask yourself, are these family members, are these friends, are they people that are positive and a healthy influence in my life? I see a lot of heads nodding in the audience. You all get this. Our business fact finder. Going back to know what it is that we know that works in our business. I don't care what profession you are. If you're a doctor, if you go in and visit your doctor, what's the first thing that they ask you? They go through and they do their own little fact finder. They ask, tell me what's going on. Where does it hurt? What's bothering you? And they go in and they type it up and they make their medical records. They go through their business fact finder. If you're a lawyer, if you're meeting with a lawyer over some situation, what do? They sit down and they have a consultation with you and they listen to what it is that you have to say, what you're going through, to see if they're the right fit for you, if they have time, or if there's somebody else they know that would be a better fit for what it is that you need. Are there any compliance people here in the room? Just want to check this box. Very pro fact finder. We can't do our jobs without a proper fact finder. We have to know your name. How many people in your family? What do you do? What's your date of birth? What's your income? You have a wedding upcoming. Where do you want to retire? When do you want to retire? Where do you want to live? Are you planning on having more children? We have to ask these questions so that we can build a foundation for our clients to help them achieve their dreams, their goals, so that we can advise them and get them onto their path of what it is that they want to accomplish in their life. So I ask you, who here has a personal fact finder? And I'm not talking about where your accounts are. But if we're trying to reach fulfillment and keeping the end in mind, then doesn't it make sense that we need to take the very thing that we start with in our business to build a foundation, to build a relationship, to help move our clients towards their goal? Does it make sense that maybe we need one of those to build our foundation, to build our plan, to reach our goals and our fulfillment? And so this is one that I developed and put together. And I put it as a 90-day personal goal worksheet. And I suggest that you keep it down to a 90-day period. I've found in my life, our lives can change a lot in 90 days. No matter what you're going through, good, bad, uncertainty, it doesn't matter if you got the worst medical diagnosis you can imagine. In 90 days, you're going to have more clarity. In 90 days, you're going to understand it, maybe a little bit better. In 90 days, hopefully, you'll have gotten through it. So life can change in 90 days. And so as we talked about, we've already identified, okay, what roles we fill, who relies on me. But now comes the scary part. Down at the bottom there, I know it may be a little bit hard to see on there, but what is expected of me in my role? You see, I have found most frustrations in life come from either unrealized or uncommunicated expectations. We all have expectations on people, on our staff and our teams. We expect them to show up. We expect them to answer the phone. We expect that they're going to treat our clients the way that they need to be treated. We expect that they are going to execute and do their job. At home, we expect the last person out to close the garage door, to turn on the alarm, to turn off the lights. And when we come back or we show up and those things aren't done, how do we feel? Well, you know what? All those people, they have expectations of us as well. And if we're not meeting those expectations, that's the same way that they feel about us. And the expectation part, man, that can be hard. That can be scary. But again, this is your opportunity to really begin with the end in mind and to focus those people who are most important to you. And I'm going to tell you, I think my wife's watching streaming, the toughest one was with my spouse, because when I sat her down, I wasn't sure, should I start out with a glass of wine or not a glass of wine, a bottle of wine, no bottle of wine. We're Irish Catholics, so that's what we do. But I sat down and I asked her, what are the things that you expect of me? And I got that look, you know that look, that glare. Where are you going with this, O'Connell? What are you talking about? Is this one of your games that you're trying to turn around and then it's suddenly going to be how I'm not meeting your expectations? Love you, honey. It was a little rough. But it was good. And we got through it. And it wasn't a one-time situation. It's something that we've revisited and we've talked about again. Because, again, 90 days, you do have to sit down and you have to talk about these things. And as you meet with your family, your spouse, your business partner, your staff, you find out the things that they expect from you. And you pick 1, 2, no more than 3 of those items. You say, I'm going to work on those for 90 days. I'm going to try to work on them. Newsflash, spoiler alert, you're not going to hit them all. And that's okay. But you're working in the direction of meeting the expectations and the needs that rely on you. And so what I found out for my personal action items, spiritual, pray with my kids. Every morning at 7:40 in the morning when I take my kids to school, we start the day off with a prayer. and they have to say something they're thankful for. I told them a couple years ago, how would you feel if somebody only came to you every time they needed something? They're like, oh, that sounds terrible. It's like, right. You need to be appreciative for the things that you have and take time out. You, everybody in this room, myself included, we need to pick time during the day. You need to be committed to a time during the day when you take time out, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and be thankful for the things that you have in your life. I do it at the beginning of the day, and it completely changes your outlook for the day. It gets you off to a great start. The other one there at the bottom, forgive others. I'm going to get back up on my soapbox as if I'm not up on one already. Forgiveness. I think that's something that the world is lacking these days. You see, I was the type of person that if you did something to me and you came and you told me that you were sorry, I could forget it, we could move on. If it was an earnest apology, great, apology accepted, we're okay. But about 13 years ago, I had somebody that ruffled my feathers, got me upset, whatever. And I knew that they weren't going to apologize. I knew they would never apologize. And a week ago, I was listening to a speaker. He said, you know, the people that upset you, that get you all worked up inside, they probably don't even know that you're upset. They probably don't even know the impact they have on you. And it took me several weeks, and I had to work to realize this person is never going to apologize to me for anything. That was one of the single greatest growth moments of my life. It was learning to forgive somebody knowing that they would never apologize to me, because I'm not going to let them continue to hold me hostage, to have that negative energy in my life. There's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I messed up, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And I think that's what a lot of what we're lacking these days. But moving on. Father, I went to my kids and I said, what is it that you expect of me as your father? And they said, to play catch, to teach us cool stuff, to build Legos, and to have family dinners. I said, those are all great things, and I want to do that. As a husband, again, this was tough. It's tough hearing some of these things. It was to be present. I already talked to you about how much I've traveled this year. That's only possible because I have a phenomenal team in place. And they know exactly what they need to be doing, and they allow this to happen. They allow me to be here. So thank you. Thank you to my team for always having my back and for our clients. My wife wanted to travel together, and finally she said, listen. And I said, what? That was a little spouse joke. That's my normally, what did I say the last time we had this conversation? And my default is that I don't listen. I just know. I've been programmed now. So I have to work on becoming a better listener. As a boss, I went to my employees, and I was blown away at their answers, because they said that we expect you to align us in the best place to succeed, to utilize our talents, to give us a future. And I said I would add that I also need to be sure there's money in the bank to pay everybody. That's part of that accountability. They appreciated that. As a salesperson, this is really easy. I just got to go make sales. As a volunteer, when you look at the organizations they expect from you, plan out events. Be on calls, be at in-person meetings. And there wasn't room on here, but I just want to add, many of you in this room, you have served on boards, you've served on committees. And how do you feel when that person walks into the room and they say, sorry guys, I just didn't have time, I didn't get to anything that I did? Doesn't feel great, does it? And if you're one of those people that's done that, you know you're dreading walking into that room and trying to act all cool and saying, sorry, I just didn't get to it. That's not fair. That's not fair to the other people on that board, on that committee. It's not fair to that organization. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I'm going through something, or I need some help, or I need some guidance, and relying on other people. But you got to be sure that you're fulfilling those promises, those expectations, and those commitments that you make, because they're bigger than just you. And personal. Going back to the health for me. Work out 2 to 3 times. A personal trainer, I know you wouldn't believe this. This is not an advertisement for him, but I needed that accountability partner. I need to eat better. I did that a little bit earlier in the year. Hope to revisit that again maybe in 2020. And do more cardio. I'm actually doing a little bit more of that. Granted, the bar was very, very low, so twice is more than none. But these are the things I need to be working on. And again, you're not going to hit on all of them, but it's the fact that you're working towards them. So who here has ever heard of the book, The 12-Week Year? I was fortunate enough that our broker-dealer brought in Brian Moran a couple of years ago for an entire day. Go through the book, go through all the exercise, the website, and everything that they do. I do not get any kickbacks on any of this, unfortunately. Again, it's just something that I learned in my practice that I applied over into my personal life. And the 12-week year concept is very simple. Why is it that we are so productive in the fourth quarter? The answer's up there for you. Because we focus. We have focus. And so Brian's question is, what if we applied that focus all year? I said, I got to be honest with you. That sounds exhausting. I know what my fourth quarter looks like. I don't think I want my year to look that way. But in reality, it's just getting focus and alignment of knowing what you need to get done. Because we know at the end of the year that we've got goals that we have to hit. We want to hit certain production numbers, certain levels. We have contracts to validate, all of those things. So what if we apply that focus, not just from the first quarter, but we apply that every quarter? And really to this today, what if we took that same focus that we have in our business and we applied it over to our 90-day, very close to a quarter or 12 weeks, personal plan? And we all know, are our goals more real if we write them down? Yes, audience participation. Do we share our goals? We should. I hope that you do. Share them with people on your team, with your staff, with your sales managers. And we all know that goals work when you don't review them, right? No, you have to review the plan. And again, this goes back to that 90 days, back to that 12 weeks. How did my life change in the last 90 days? Did I get married? Is there a divorce? Is there birth? Is there adoption? Was there death? Was there a major health diagnosis? Did I move? Do I have any expected changes that I need to plan for in the next 90 days? Am I getting more involved in another organization? Is there something that I want to do personally that I want to try that I've never done before? What worked and what didn't? So let me tell you something, and I'm sure that you can relate to this. If you have children and you agree that you're going to be home for 2 to 3 nights a week for a family dinner, my kids, they go running over the paper calendar and they start looking at the evenings that we can have family dinner. You know what kids love to do? They love to hold adults accountable. They're tired of hearing about doing homework, cleaning their room, brushing their teeth, turning out the lights, big on time. They love to hold us accountable. And so you got to look at what worked and what didn't. So if putting family dinner night on the calendar on the side of the refrigerator, and you got those dates, but you didn't put it on your work calendar, that didn't work, my friends. It wasn't on my calendar. It didn't happen. So you have to go back and reevaluate what's working and what's not. What do I need to give more energy to? What don't I want to have in my life anymore? And what did I totally forget about? For me, the first time I did this, I listed, okay, I'm a volunteer, I'm on some boards. But where I failed was I didn't list out everything that I do and everything that I'm involved in. And I did not anticipate all the time and the energy that was needed for all the volunteer roles that I filled. It also taught me something about capacity, of the capacity that I have in all my other areas that allows me to participate in certain organizations and to serve on other boards. Try to help me not to overcommit to get to what most people call that balance. One-page business plan. Going back to it. This is probably one of the least favorite books out of people that I know, but it's a darn good book. This goes back to Lily. So when's the last time that you did one for your business? When is the last time you reviewed it? When's the last time that you sat down with your staff and had them complete one? When is the last time they reviewed it? And when is the last time that you did one for yourself? This is not meant to be easy. This is a challenge. At the beginning of this year, with my team, we sat down and we created one for the company, and we listed out our values, and we spelled out what we were going to do quarter by quarter and who was going to be responsible and accountable for those. And then I challenged my team members to make one out for themselves personally. Some were moving. Some wanted to get their insurance license. Some had different goals that they had yet to discover and find. But when is the last time that you did one of these for yourself, that you sat down with your personal life and you sat there and you said, where do I want to be when I retire? Where do I want to move to? Maybe my dream is to open a honky-tonk bar with the front end of a Chevrolet pickup truck behind the bar. The one-page business plan, it is hard to work through. It is a challenge. But again, it is helping you formulate a plan of how to fill and meet all those expectations and all those roles. And so to me, balance no longer looks like this. Now granted, this is a beautiful chart. What do pie charts represent? They normally represent numbers and data. They represent things in the past. They illustrate things that have happened, not things that are yet to be. Now certainly you can forecast with them, but most of the time, these are representing historical data. So when you go back and you look at trying to find balance, most of us think of, I need to spend this much time in this area, this much time over here, and this much time over here. But how do you measure that on a day-to-day basis? It's pretty hard, isn't it? So I argue, instead, to me, balance looks like this. It's nowhere near as pretty as the pie chart. I understand that. It does have color. This is just a snapshot of my calendar. And so the first thing, I have a shared calendar. My spouse can see it. My team, everybody in my organization can see it. I show all 7 days of the week. I color code everything. Blue, new business appointments. Red, individual appointments. Pink, vendor meetings. Orange, marketing meetings. Yellow, Rotary. Green, MDRT. NAIFA, gray, business development. Black, personal, light purple. Travel, dark purple. Cub Scouts, light blue. Boy Scouts, brown. I color code it so I can look very easily at my week, and I can look at my next week, and I can look at the week before, and I can see where I'm spending my time. Because we kind of start to figure it out when we feel like, man, I'm spending way too much time over here, and I'm not doing enough over here in this area of my life. And this makes it really easy. And I think it's important to include the weekends because you want to be sure that you are spending personal time with those that need you. This makes sense? All right. Camera guy's nodding too. So this is some audience participation part. Where is your inspiration? Got one more to pull it. And again, this doesn't represent every single book that I've read, believe it or not. But where do you read? One of my favorites, and I'll read anything that he writes, is John Maxwell. And this was an author that I really, shamedly, did not know much about until I went through the Lilly course. And after I got done, I've tried to read just about every book of his that I could find. An oldie but a goodie, Who Moved My Cheese? Very simple, yet it's a good lesson to remember. NAIFA, Texas, a couple years ago, we had a lady named Jennifer Powers. She wrote a book called Oh Shift, and it's like Who Moved My Cheese version 2.0. And the cool thing about it is that we read books with my staff because they only know what I'm going to bring back to them. They don't get to attend all these meetings and hear all these speakers like I do. And so we now read books on a regular basis. And it's pretty awesome when one of your staff members says, thank you. That book, I really needed that at that time and that message, and I never would have had that if you didn't bring it back to me. So I want to know the little audience participation. Karen Easterling, what is one of your favorite books that inspires you? So she said 7 Habits by Stephen Covey. This is where it stinks if you're in NAIFA, Texas, because I know your name and I can call on you. Joseph, the energy bus. Anything that we haven't talked about already? I kind of feel like you're cheating over there. Essentialism by Greg McKeown. I haven't read that one. All right. I may have read that. Okay, I don't know if I can get off stage here. You got, oh, took a bad bounce. These are stress relieving balls for every time you're trying to find balance by Lilly. They do have an American flag on the front as well. Joey Usry. Joey's answer was 7 habits. Kate from Colorado. I picked on you last year, our focus session. You did an excellent job timekeeping for me. So this year, what is an inspirational book that has not already been shared? When by Daniel Pink. Daniel Pink is awesome. Daniel spoke at the MDRT main platform this last year. All right, can I skip this back to you? I don't know if I can get this out. You got a duck in front. Oh, we made the row. We made the row. Joey, did you find a book? The question behind the question. Frank, Genius Food. I like the name of that. Lane. Juggling Elephants. I've heard of that one, but I haven't read it. Sean, back row. Failing Up, Leslie Odom Jr. I've heard of that one as well, but I have not read it. Failing Up. Yes. Principles. And what was the name? Ray? Principles. Good book. Yes, sir, in the back. Yep, Living a Life of Significance. Joe Jordan, very impactful in our industry. Yes, sir. Good to great. Excellent book. Excellent book. One of mine that I really liked, and it gets like this 50-50 review in Lilly, is Credibility. And I think it's because we're all kind of afraid of what it says, actually. But it's a very good book. Was there somebody else over here? I thought I saw a hand up. Yes. Right. Storytelling. The Power of Storytelling. Blue Ocean Strategy. Leadership and Self-Deception. That's a good book. I have that one on my bookshelf. I had to read that back many, many years ago, and I read it again. Yes, sir. The Secrets of Closing. Back row. Enjoy the Ride by Steve Gilliam. And so what I found, thank you, those were phenomenal responses. What I found is as I went through these books, I read them with a highlighter, and I love those wax highlighters, those yellow wax highlighters, because they don't bleed through. And I would go through and I would read a book because I'm the type of person that all too often I'd read a page and I had no idea what I just read, and I would highlight the things that I thought were important or that I took from those books. And then when I got done, I would go back and I would try to look at those highlighted things and make note or pull out those ideas that really spoke to me or that I needed to pull into my professional and my personal life. So who are people that you listen to? One of them that I like is Steve Harvey, and he has got an incredible story, incredible message. And so think about who it is that you listen to in your personal life. Who's in your ear? Who do you follow on social media? Are you engaging in political debate? I gave that up a long time ago. You have to think, and you have to realize just about everybody's on social media. Your clients are on social media. Your clients are looking you up on social media. Your social media presence or lack of presence is now the front lobby to your office. Before they ever step foot or many times even make a phone call, people have looked you up and checked you out. What are you saying on social media? I try to be, and I try to have my company be, the type of person and the type of company that people would want to follow. We try to reflect about things that are positive, things that we're doing in the community, inspirational stories, inspirational quotes. One of my favorite people is Jay Shetty. And I know that many of you follow the Power of Positivity, and there are tons of inspirational pages on Facebook that you can follow and subscribe to just for a little inspiration every now and then. What music do you listen to and when? You know what? When I'm working out, that music is very different than when I'm trying to relax or when I'm on an airplane. Because it's amazing. We know that music can affect your mood. And if you're depressed, you're going to listen to more 90s grunge music, that depressing, mellow type of stuff, and it's going to prolong that effect. If you're in love, you're going to be listening to music about love stories. If you're heartbroken, you're going to be somewhere in the middle. But the music that you listen to has an overall impact on your mental health as well. How do you continue to grow? So when I was 23 years old and I had my first job, I was sitting by the pool at my apartment, and it dawned on me. Up to that point, all of my education and all of your education through high school or college has always really been forced upon you. You've been told what to read. You've been told what the answer is and what the answer you're expected to give is. But now, you have the ability to control your own growth. How is it that you want to continue to grow? Is it finding a mentor? Is it going through leadership classes? Is it reading books? Is it joining a study group? But you have to continue to grow. And as we all know, true growth comes from once we get outside of our comfort zone. But you owe it to yourself and you owe it to those people that rely on you to continue to grow. Engage your staff. I would say engage everybody. Engage your family. Engage those people in your life. Let them know what it is that you're trying to do. Share those goals with your team. Show them how they win with those goals. Communicate, because if you can open up to people and say, look, I'm trying to be the best version of myself. I'm trying to find fulfillment in my life. And with that, I know that there are things that you expect of me, and I want to know what those are. And I want to try and work on some of this for you. Those people are going to want to help you succeed. It's just like my kids with going home and having dinner 2 to 3 nights a week. They run over the calendar and they start circling the nights of when we can have family dinner together. They're eager to help me succeed. And so the outcome, as I went through this process, you can see clearly, I know where I spend my time. I can easily look at my calendar and I can tell how much balance I have, where I'm needed at different times. And it's not a perfect balance. There are certainly times in your life that you have to give more time and more energy to something other than another place. But I can also see my schedule and my balance for weeks. My calendar usually books out 2 to 3 weeks. So when I join an organization, when I get on a board, I try to put every single date for that organization out for the entire year. And then I start filling in the things as we go. That's my balance. The amazing thing is I wake up happy every day now. You look at how many people suffer with anxiety, depression, things that cripple people, that can really hurt them and the people around them. And I wake up happy. I wake up happy because I know every day I'm trying to work to meet the expectations of those people who rely on me. And I'm not going to hit them all. I'm not going to get there. But I know that I'm at least working towards that. And ultimately, the final outcome for me is true happiness. It's waking up happy, having a great attitude, even on the tough days. It's being thankful for all the things in my life, even when you're sitting in traffic and getting cut off on the turnpike. So what I want you to understand is, for me and hopefully for you, this process can work. Take the things that you already know that work in your practice and try to apply some of those to your personal life. Begin with the end in mind. If you work towards that fulfillment, the balance will come. You have everything you need to get there. You don't have to look further than what you already have in your business. It takes you rethinking what balance looks like. Identify the people that rely on you. Understand their expectations and needs. Set realistic goals based on feedback. Just work towards 2, maybe 3 at the most per quarter for each area that you're relied upon. And you got to review it. And I recommend doing it every 90 days, at least every 6 months. And so with that, finally, as you go off and you try to implement some of these, which I hope that you will, you can enjoy a more meaningful, fulfilling life, which makes an impact on those who mean the most to you. Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody in the room, everybody join us live. These slides will be available, I understand, online. If anybody's interested in those, through the NAIFA Live section. And any questions before we go? We just have maybe 2 minutes. Yes, sir. Yes, I absolutely did those, unfortunately. The question was, did I do those graphics? Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. Yes, sir. Yep, so 3 years ago, the question was, what type of practice do I have? So 3 years ago, I started my own agency. I've been in the employee benefits area for, now it's been 13 years. We focus on really employers from startup to 400 employees. We do retirement plans, some life insurance, disability, but the majority of our business is the health insurance and the employee benefits. Yeah. All right, well, I think they're going to kick us out of the room. Thanks again. Safe travels home. I appreciate everybody joining us remotely. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So, everybody, and thanks to everybody who participated today, virtually and live in person. We really appreciate it. Just before we close the Zoom session today, I do have another polling question for the individual viewers that are on virtual today. What state are you viewing this program from? What state are you viewing this program from? Please use the polling feature on your screen. You have 2 minutes. And don't forget to mark your calendar for October 10th. That is our next NAIFA Live. And NAIFA Nebraska is hosting. It's featuring David McKnight presenting The Power of Zero. So once again, thank you for those of you joining us virtually and in person. This concludes our program. For those of you that are participating from area viewing locations, I turn you back to your local meeting, and I encourage you to continue the discussion. Have a great day.
I never matter, doesn't matter to any of us. Don't change the subject, I'm heavy on your love. I missed that train, New York City, erased. Fly to East LA in big jet planes, you know you're on my mind. The world don't break, I'll be staying. Cause I'm a young man, I trust. I wanna see them stand. Will you stand by me? Cause I'm a young man built to fall. Taste my disaster, it's heavy on my tongue. Oh, Mexico, Tokyo, snow. Don't you watch the show? Curtains closed. I'm watching you this time. Ain't no wall, don't break. I'm watching you this time. Mind over matter. Mind over matter. You know you're on my mind. When the world don't break, I'll be steady, baby. 'Cause I'm a young man after all. And when the seasons change, will you stand by me? 'Cause I'm a young man built to fall. And the world don't break. And when the seasons change.